Is it too early to worry about Saints coach Kellen Moore? Ladies and gentlemen, Boot Crew Media is the backdrop. The answer is yes. All right, here's a general rule you need to follow when it comes to sports. If you do not think something in week 2 or week 1 or whatever, then you cannot think it the next week. If you did not think that the Saints should be worried about Kellen Moore in week 2, you cannot think it in week 3. Now, you might be saying, why? What's the reason for that? The reason is it's too short of a sample size. It's too fast to go from the Saints aren't that bad to the Saints are the worst team of all time. It's too short to go from the Saints are building something to this team is broken and busted. Now, if you go week and week and week and week and week and week and you start building data points, you start building all this stuff, then yeah, okay, have the conversation. But I guarantee you, someone do some research. I guarantee you, if you go to any Saints channel, any channel that posts daily or weekly or whatever, I guarantee you last week it was a bunch of the Saints aren't that bad. Spencer Rattler's not that bad. Kellen Moore's building something. And I guarantee you this week is the total opposite. You cannot switch that fast in anything. All right. If you are the Tennessee Titans in week 2, if you're saying, okay, Cam Ward's showing us something here. Week 3, you can't say, I'm done with Cam Ward. Way too fast to go swing from both sides of the pendulum one week to the other week. All right.
We're only 3 weeks into the 2025 season, but Saints fans are already starting to sound the alarms when it comes to Kellen Moore. Is it justified? We'll talk about it right here on the Straight Up Saints podcast.
Hair in my mouth.
You're listening to the Straight Up Saints podcast.
Straight Up Saints podcast. Straight up.
What is up, Who Dat Nation? Welcome inside another
What's up,
edition
man? How's
of
it
the
going?
Straight Up Saints podcast. I'm your host, Chris Rosvoglu, and as always, the Straight Up Saints podcast is brought to you by Scott McNair Injury Lawyers. Have been injured in any kind of accident, car, truck, 18-wheeler, hurt offshore.
Fall
Scott
downstairs.
McNair at all. You can call at 504-500-1111
burn your mouth
for a
on
free
coffee or
consultation.
something.
They'll always fight for
Yeah.
the win. The Saints are 0-3 to start the Kellen Moore era. Not really the biggest surprise when you look at the current makeup of the roster and you look at the schedule. We all talked about it. The first couple of weeks of the season, you play an Arizona Cardinals team that's 2-1. You play a 49ers team that's now 3-0. You played a Seattle team that is also now 2-1. And then week 4, you're going to play a Buffalo team that is 3-0. And if I had to guess,
Also a Seattle team that should be 3-0. It should be San Francisco. So the only reason that the Seattle is 2-1 is because the other team you played is 3-0.
probably be ranked number 1 in most power rankings going into week 4. So the schedule does you no favors. That said, I think that it's fair to say it's too early to call for a new coach while also saying there are some concerning things when it comes to Kellen Moore and his coaching staff through 3 games. So try to be fair about it while also practicing some patience. I will say that the first 2 games of the season definitely were a little bit more manageable as a fan to get through. You know, your Jawan Johnson drop away from a game going into overtime week 1, and you are a game-winning drive away from beating the 49ers in week 2, who they look to be one of the best teams in the NFC right now. That said, week 3 against the Seahawks was a flat-out embarrassment. You know, you're talking about an offense that wasn't really able to do much in terms of explosiveness. You're talking about a defense that literally couldn't stop Sam Darnold in that passing game. You're talking about a special teams that really imploded. And it was a game that was over within the first 20 minutes. I mean, they were down 21-0 and then 21-0
All true. All that's absolutely true. No doubt about it.
became 38-6 at halftime. So obviously a loss like that makes the fan base ask questions. I asked questions. I said on the halftime live stream that we did, I started to wonder, like, Kellen Moore did some questionable things that you say, all right, it's a first-year head coach, but if that becomes a trend, then it's alarming. Then you start asking questions about whether or not he's the guy. So here's what I know, and here's what I'll break down when it comes to Kellen Moore through the first 3 games. I think there's 2 problems that concern the heck out of me. The first one, penalties. They have 31 penalties through the first 3 games of the season. They had 13 penalties week 1 against the Cardinals. Clean that up a little bit against the 49ers, had 7 penalties. And mind you, what's scary is those are at home. 20 penalties through the first 2 games of the season, both were home games. And then week 3, 11 penalties in Seattle, a lot of pre-snap penalties, a lot of holding penalties, ugly performance. So you're at 31 penalties through 3 games. Undisciplined team. You got to clean that up. And I think
All right, so yeah, agreed. Like, you do have to clean up the penalties. Not all penalties are created equal. It depends on the penalty. The penalties we're talking about are pre-snap penalties, stuff that can be cleaned up. Pass interference, face masks, unnecessary roughness, stuff like that. A little bit different, right? It's in the flow of the game, but illegal motion, illegal shift, false start, off, like stuff like that, you can clean up for sure, and it does need to get cleaned up. 100%, but that is a very different conversation than fire Kellen Moore. Like that's where I'm at. It is not all the same. It's not, well, we're a highly penalized team through 3 games, so we need to fire Kellen Moore. It's like, we need to clean it up. He needs to be better at preparing these guys, cleaning it up, whatever, and it needs to get fixed. And in week 2, it kind of was. Like, week 2, you cut it by more than 50%. Okay. Week 3, jumps back up. Again, how much of that's because you're on the road? I don't know. Clean it up. And week 4, if it bounces back down to 5, 6, whatever, gets cut in half again, who knows? Like, the conversation can shift. And we just have to see patterns of growth, patterns of fixing problems, whatever. We just cannot see problems in week 10, week 11, week 12. If we're sitting here saying we're giving up 10 penalties a game, it's kind of funny because when people wanted Mike McCarthy to be the head coach of the Saints, Mike McCarthy was with our Mike McCarthy coached Cowboys teams, led the NFL in penalties 3 consecutive seasons. And we talked about how that has been a calling card for Mike McCarthy teams, is that they are penalized a lot. And over 3 years, yeah, you can say it's a Mike McCarthy thing. Like, his teams are highly penalized. It is something that it happened over the course of 3 years. That is a trend, right? Kellen Moore, same thing. If at the end of the year, the Saints are the most penalized team, or week 10, week 11, week 12, whatever, 100%, you can point to it and say, what is going on? How can we fix this? 3 weeks? I don't think that's enough.
You can expect this team to be outmatched in the talent department against certain opponents. Like next week against the Bills, they'll be outmatched. But to play this sloppy brand of football is egregious. It's at the point where, in my opinion, you just can't defend it if this becomes a common theme for this Saints team. So far it is a theme through 3 games, and until they prove that they can fix this, they're an undisciplined football team. And when you're undisciplined, that falls on the head coach. So that's strike 1 that concerns me. The second thing that really concerns me, and I really didn't think it was going to be this way, was the offense. The lack of explosive plays. I didn't think the Saints were going to have some type of run and gun, greatest show on turf type offense. I didn't expect that. But the lack of explosive plays from Olave, explosive plays from Shaheed, it concerns me. So Chris Olave had 10 catches for 52 yards in week 3, and it's not really that much of an anomaly. The reality is he's got 7.2 yards per reception right now. That is not what you want from a guy of his caliber. You want that number up. More concerningly.
So Nick Underhill tweeted this out, and this is interesting. This is the NFL leader in pass attempts of 10-plus yards. Spencer Rattler is number 1. Now, that is going to absolutely blow your mind, all right? Spencer Rattler is currently leading the NFL in pass attempts of 10-plus yards. If you move it to NFL leaders in targets on pass attempts of 10-plus yards, Chris Olave is 5th, all right? If you go to 20-plus attempts, Spencer Rattler is 4th. So what's going on, right? Because you see this and you say, well, the offense isn't explosive. The offense isn't this. The offense isn't that. And then you see that these numbers, and you're like, all right, how can both be true? Because both kind of are true, all right? And it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, where it's true because it's such a small sample size. And things can be kind of weird and wonky in that small sample size. I don't think it's that they aren't taking the shots, per se. I think it's more that they're not connecting on the shots, per se. All right? Like, I don't feel like, I talked about this in the first week. The offense doesn't feel safe or slow. It doesn't feel like that, but it feels it feels lacking, I guess. And I talked about this in a video this week, but I think when it's easy to kind of see the offense be lacking and there's no points or whatever, and it's like, I want to see deep balls. I want to see throws, bombs to Rashid Shaheed. What happened to the Rashid Shaheed Hail Marys? I need to see more of that. It's like, and I feel like when that becomes the conversation, people are kind of grasping at straws. The shots are there. We're just not connecting on them. And I'll also say this. I think a reason, and this is just my theory, I think a reason that Rattler is leading in that is because, one, the Saints are constantly trailing. The Saints are constantly having to throw the football. Rattler probably has, I would assume Rattler might have the most pass attempts in the NFL. I mean, he's thrown it basically 45 times a game through 3 games. But also that the Saints down in distance is always long. It's always, 2nd and 10, 3rd and 15, 1st and 15, because of those penalties. And so you can see how that kind of stuff works in tandem.
In the first 3 games of the season, Rashid Shaheed has 9.1 yards per reception. The lowest number in Shaheed's career so far is 15.6. So we're talking about a guy whose career average is 16 yards per reception. Right now, that's down to 9. So you're not even getting explosive plays from the one guy who's supposed to be that home run hit, that deep threat guy. You're not getting that.
A lot of it, I mean, the target share is being funneled to basically 3 players. Olave, who's getting like 30-something% of the volume, Juwan Johnson, and Alvin Kamara. And Alvin Kamara really didn't in the Seattle game, but he got a ton of work in week 2. That's like the volume share. The Rashid Shaheed, Clint Kubiak usage, Clint Kubiak's offense, we talked about this last year. Clint Kubiak's offense is zone run, and then you set up play action, like go routes. That's what you do. And Rashid Shaheed was perfect for that. Kellen Moore's is not that. Kellen Moore's is more of the crossing concepts. He does a totally different running scheme, a little bit different. And I think Shaheed's, what he's going to be in this offense is more of a like fleshed out true wide receiver, less of just a deep route guy, and more of a get in space. Sure, take the chances when you got them, but a lot of beat the defender off the line, get in space, crossing routes, mesh concepts, get the ball in space and go. And we haven't really seen Shaheed succeed doing that through 3 games.
And when you have an offensive-minded coach like Kellen Moore, who obviously I respect greatly with what he did last year with Philly, obviously that offense was tremendous, and don't get me wrong, the personnel was obviously better there than what you got in New Orleans. But Shaheed is a talented playmaker. We've seen it with Clint Kubiak. We've seen it with Pete Carmichael. But it's not working with Kellen Moore. That turns the hell out of me. Olave, he's really kind of turned into this 5-yard catch here, 7-yard catch there, 5-yard catch here. Like I said, 10 catches for 52 yards in Seattle. It's an uninspired performance, and it's not knocking the player as much as what are we scheming open for these wide receivers?
I think the first 3 games, it's pretty obvious what's happened. I think the first 3 games, they follow the exact same script. Saints go down early, right? Saints don't score early. So they're trailing. The defense says, well, the Saints are trailing in this game. They already are limited. So we're going to play 2 high, 3 high, and we're going to make them dink and dunk because they're trailing, they're down. Who cares? We're going to slow this whole thing down, and that's how we're going to win this game. That's basically what all 3 teams have done. Now the Seahawks one is dramatically. It's like that example, but to the max because they were up 21-0 in the first 40 seconds. But that's been the case the entire time, and I think that's why some of like the Olave stuff and some of these numbers are a little down. But aside from the idea of like pushing the ball downfield or any of that stuff, like remove that. What the Saints absolutely have to do is score. That's the thing. Like sometimes we get really intricate in what's wrong, right? It's like, okay, they're not pushing the ball 11.7 yards downfield like the average. They need to push it, this, or they need to have this or whatever. And sometimes it's actually way more simple. The issue is that the Saints aren't scoring. I don't care if they throw for 5 yards of reception if they matriculate down the field and score. The problem is, similarly, I don't care if you're throwing 70-yard bombs every possession. If it doesn't lead to scoring, whatever. That's the issue, is that what the Saints are doing right now is not leading to scoring. They get into the red zone, settling for field goals, missing said field goals, or whatever. They can't score, or they certainly can't score enough. And at the end of the day, that's how you win games. You score enough. The Saints have to figure out a way. I don't care if it's running the ball. I don't care if it's throwing hitch routes. I don't care if it's flea flickers. I don't care if it's the Statue of Liberty play. I don't care if it's go routes. They got to figure out a way to consistently score and to bump up that average. That's what they need to do, because they don't have the Cleveland Browns defense. The Cleveland Browns, you can get away with dinking and dunking down the field and trying to win games 13-10, 17-10. That ain't what the Saints are doing. All right, the Houston Texans have one of the best defenses in the NFL. They can get away with scoring 17 points a game, and they're going to get some wins because their defense is that good. The Saints aren't that. The Saints don't have that defense. So the Saints had to figure out a way consistently to put points on the board and find some success, specifically find some success early.
And that falls on coaching. Now, the third thing, this part falls on Kellen Moore and part falls on the rest of the staff, but Kellen Moore is the one who assembled the staff. Brandon Staley's defense is getting worse each week. Week 1, 20.
Brandon Staley's pass defense is getting worse each week. Brandon Staley's run defense, which is kind of crazy because how bad the Saints' run defense has been previously. The run defense has been sweet. The run defense is top 10. They've been awesome. But the pass defense has been comically bad. Not average, not below average, not bad, not really bad, comically bad. Like breathtakingly bad. He's got to fix the pass defense. 2 things on the defense so far. Pressure on the quarterback, or 3 things, I guess. Pressure on the quarterback, third down, and the pass defense. That's right now, that's what the spotlight is on this defense. But the run defense has been good.
Points given up to the Cardinals. Respectable performance with no Chase Young. Week 2, you give up 26 to the Niners. Mac Jones had 279 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. No knock on Mac Jones, but that is a flawless, close to flawless. He had a fumble, but outside of the fumble, close to flawless performance from a backup quarterback. That's not what you want to see defensively. And now you go up against Seattle. You don't get any pressure on Darnold. He was pressured on 3 of his dropbacks all game.
Darnold was insane. Kenneth Walker held him in check. Christian McCaffrey held him in check. James Conner held him in check. Darnold went nuts. Mac Jones went nuts, right? Like, that's the problem. The pass defense, third down, that's the issue.
3 dropbacks he was pressured on all game. So no pressure there. He had a truly picture-perfect performance. No turnovers, 2 touchdowns, only a couple of incompletions, 14 of 18. I mean, he was tremendous.
Yeah.
You gave up 44 points. And I'm going to be fair. I'm going to take out the special teams touchdown, which is a punt return, and I'll wipe the touchdown off the board that the punt got blocked because the Seahawks had excellent field position on that one. So wipe out those 2. You still gave up 30 points. And the trend now, 20 points week 1, 26 points week 2. If I'm being generous, it's 30 points week 3, but really it's a 44 spot on the board. So the defense is getting worse week to week. Okay.
Again, the pass defense is absolutely getting worse.
Now you play Buffalo. That offense obviously has been humming. We saw week 1, 41 points and a comeback win over the Ravens. This past week, I think that 31 was it against the Dolphins. That offense can move the chains. So
yes.
Defense is getting worse. Offense isn't hitting on explosive plays. And frankly, when you look at the penalties, the undisciplined nature of this team is just really, it's mind-boggling to me because Kellen Moore will come out and say, hey, we're going to fix this. We're going to bring refs to practice. And the results are still the same. So those 3 things concern me. They're trends that are worrisome. That said, there's 14 more games left. Kellen Moore could potentially get this shit back in order. And who knows? It really takes 1 game to kind of get this in order. And I want to preface by saying that.
But that's kind of crazy. Like, similarly, it does not take 1 game to get it in order. It doesn't take 1 game to break it. It doesn't take 1 game to get it in order. If they go and beat the Bills, I'll tell you this. If the Saints go and beat the Bills, And I've got to hear everyone swing back the other way, that Kellen Moore, now he's Sean Payton, now Kellen Moore can do this, now Spencer Rattler figured it out, now Brandon Staley unlocked it, now 1 week of practice has eliminated the penalty issues, we're back, we can win the division, this is the team of dreams. If I've got to hear that, I'm going to lose my mind. The whiplash, I'll be lost in the sauce. But that's exactly what will happen. That's exactly what will happen. One game doesn't make it. One game doesn't break it. Ladies and gentlemen, you got 14 games left. You're going to have ups. You're going to have downs. You got to see the whole thing. 3 weeks ain't nothing. I'll tell you that right now. 4 weeks ain't nothing. After next week, the Ravens will be either the Ravens or the Chiefs. One of them will be 1-3. You know what that means in the grand scheme of things? Nothing. Wasn't too long ago, it was one of the Kyler Murray Cardinals teams. Started off like 9-0, 10-0, missed the playoffs. Ravens, I think, did the same thing in the Lamar Jackson era. I think they won nine straight, missed the playoffs. Steelers, I know within the last like 5 or 6 years, they had the best defense in the NFL. Went like 7-8-0, missed the playoffs. That don't mean nothing. Just like preseason didn't mean nothing. Training camp didn't mean nothing. You got to build the whole thing out. The whole thing. All right? Then you can take stock of what's going on. Here's the truth. We are 3 weeks in. 3. And we got people talking about firing Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore has a 2-year window, I would say minimum, to get this thing figured out. Matt Patricia with the Lions, one of the worst coaches of all time. How many years did he coach in Detroit? 3? Something like that. Urban Meyer in Jacksonville, he was given half of a season, whatever, and he was begging to get fired. This is not a fire Kellen Moore situation. And it's not going to be this year. And it ain't going to be next year. I had someone in my chat ask me this week, when do we start having the conversation about Kellen Moore? What game? And I said, game 34. Because that's when you assess stuff like that. You assess that, just like Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen, absolute balls as a head coach. You assess that after a couple of years. You assess it. You see what's going on. And then you call it. Unless it is a historically bad situation on Nathaniel Hackett or Urban Meyer or whatever, which I don't think this is what it's going to be. We are having this conversation 2 years too early. People are jumping the gun to a atmospheric level right now. Rebuilding team, rookie head coach, rookies all over the place. You don't know the roster's got. You're rebuilding. You're trying to figure things out. We're 3 weeks in. And we got actual fire the head coach conversations happening. You can't want a rebuild. And then when the rebuild begins, it's, all right, start firing people. That ain't how it works. That's how you become Carolina. That's how you become Jacksonville. That's how you become these laughingstock teams who all they do is lose for 10, 15, 20 straight years. Is that they can't recognize what's happening. They panic. They get overly emotional. David Tepper, they get Bryce Young. They're in an obvious rebuild. They're the first overall pick. Rookie quarterback. What do? Fire Frank Reich, 5 games in? Firing people left and right. All of a sudden, a rookie quarterback's got a new head coach every other year, new coordinator every year, and then everything goes ass over tea kettle. And then 2 GMs later, 5 coaches later, 4 quarterbacks later, the Jaguars are looking around like, why aren't we winning? The Panthers are looking around like, why aren't we winning? Because you're not even giving yourself a chance to win. That's the problem. That's the issue. I mean, think about Denver. Sean Payton's first year, complete disaster. Russell Wilson, $200 and whatever $million contract. They have to get rid of him, eat $80 million, dead cap, NFL record. Sean Payton's second year, first year, third game in, they give up could have given up an NFL record, 70 plus points to the Dolphins. The Dolphins take a knee instead of kicking a field goal. All right. The following year, they draft Bo Nix. They go to the playoffs. Everyone's like, damn, the Broncos are the greatest. The Broncos could win the AFC. Sean Payton's the man. Sean Payton's the greatest coach in history. Bo Nix, MVP. What's going on right now? Denver's whiplashed the other way. Bo Nix is the lowest rated quarterback in PFF. Worst quarterback in the NFL through 3 games. Is it time to bench Bo Nix? Is it time to fire Sean Payton? Are the Broncos the worst team in the AFC? I'm telling you. I am telling you, ladies and gentlemen, you got to listen to me because I've never been wrong once in my life. 3 games. I don't care what team you're rooting for. I don't care if it's a quarterback, a head coach, a defensive end, whatever. 3 games is too short to make any kind of decision. Titans fans shouldn't be worried about Cam Ward. Broncos fans shouldn't be worried about their start. Chiefs, Ravens fans shouldn't be worried. The Saints fans should not be making declarations on firing Kellen Moore 12 quarters in to a rebuilding team on his rookie year of being a head coach. Be frustrated with the loss. The loss sucked. Be frustrated. It is not fun to sit through that loss. 44-13. That sucks. But it's a game. If you didn't think we should have fired Kellen Moore after week 2, don't think it after week 3. Make a notch in the notebook. Do your recap. Do your analysis. Break it down. Flip the page. We're on to Buffalo. You'll lose at Buffalo. Make your notes. Take stock of what's going on. Do your recap. Whatever. Flip the page. We're on to the Giants.
Yes. The Bills game's probably going to get ugly. People are going to panic. Let's see how that Giants, Patriots, Bears stretch goes. Those are a little bit more manageable opponents. You're not exactly entering the slaughterhouse when you go against those teams. And maybe, just maybe, they could string together a win or 2, or at least 1, to feel that vibe switch in the locker room and feel like the culture's starting to build. Because right now, this is a team that doesn't really have their calling card. They have no identity offensively, defensively. They're a train wreck. And I just don't think they have a guy they could turn to and say, when everything's against them, pull us out of the mud.
Absolutely not. That's why they're one of the worst rated rosters in the NFL. Of course. Yes. And of course they don't have an identity. It's week 3. Just like I said, there are a lot of teams right now trying to search for their identity, whether it's on offense or defense. The Cowboys have given up the most passing yards in the NFL. Their defense is garbage. They got to find a defensive identity. The Baltimore Ravens have given up the most points in the NFL. They are a mess on defense. They got to find their defensive identity. The Chiefs are a mess on offense. They got to find their offensive identity. The Giants just went from Russell Wilson to Jackson Dart. They got to find their identity. That's what the first however many weeks of the season are for. And yeah, the Saints got to find their identity offensively and defensively. That's Kellen Moore's job. That's why he's the head coach. And if they don't find that identity and they're horrible this year, then they go into next year and they're rudderless again, then you take a look and you say, I got 2 years of data. I got 2 years of trends. I got all this stuff. Here's the issue. Here's what's going on. We got to get rid of some people. Okie dokie. After a year, 2 years, easy to see. All right, Pete Carmichael ain't it. After a couple years, easy to see. All right, Dennis Allen ain't it. These trends are now a thing. These common themes are a thing. It's every game. After 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week,
I don't think they have that at the moment. We'll see if that ends up changing. Those are all concerns. Again, 3 games in doesn't mean I'm saying fire Kellen Moore, but I am saying if we're going to be fair as fans, got to point out the alarming signs, and we just got to monitor if they're going to change over the next couple of weeks of the season. So let me know your thoughts below. Do you guys think it's way too early to panic about Kellen Moore? Do you think that these alarming trends that I mentioned are something worth keeping an eye on and genuinely have you worried about whether or not he's going to be the guy? Comment below. Make sure to subscribe to Boot Crew Media. And as always, stay tuned for more from the Straight Up Saints podcast, the destination for the Who Dat Nation.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, what the hell's going on here? Let me know in the comments below what you think. Tough week out there in Saints media. Good Lord have mercy. All right. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.